Alright, what up guys? Welcome to another video. We're back in the garage working on this thing. Yesterday was the day that we finally got the JZ bolted in, and today we got to figure out the trans side and see if this thing's gonna have to come out again. Back here is where the shifter sits. I do, on the CDO9, or sorry, on the Serial 9 shifter, it does have this piece on the shifter, so technically if I could get that on there it would work the way that it is right now, but I do need to be able to get this part of the shifter all the way through the hole in order for the trans mount to come up far enough to bolt into the chassis. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to notch that part of the tunnel right there, and hopefully we can get the tranny bolted in and the engine won't have to come out again. Along with that, we are going to be tackling the fuel pump on this thing. This looks like it's been opened up before, and this car before I bought it was being prepped to be a drift car, so I'm not sure if someone swapped the pump already, but regardless, I did go to Mopac, local to me, and pick up a Walbro 255. It's 89 to 94 240 specific, so the connector and everything, all the wiring should be good. So that's what I'm doing for a fuel pump. And then at Mopac, I also picked up my Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator that's going to go up in the front, and also just a little fuel pressure gauge to go on it. Getting this thing set up for fuel to run the JZ isn't really that complicated. I just have to do the pump, and I'm gonna do that fuel pressure regulator, and then I also just need to extend the fuel lines in the front from this side of the engine over to that side, which also shouldn't be too difficult. Chase Bays makes a kit for that I'm probably gonna buy. They're all -6 AN lines, and so is the fuel pressure regulator I got. And so that should all bolt together easily. And yeah, that'll basically it for the fuel. That'll be more than enough fuel for this thing to run stock. If there's no issue with the transmission, I can get it bolted in and I know the engine is in for good. Then I will start doing the intercooler piping as well. Because as you guys saw in that box right there, I have the CX Racing like full intercooler kit for this thing, along with the radiator pipe that goes right here. And then I can source out a SR20 rad and figure out how slim of fans I'm gonna need to be able to fit there. It actually looks like I have a decent amount of room in front of the engine, so I'm not too concerned with having to notch this, but I feel like I will have to, just a little bit. First and foremost though, I need to figure out the trans stuff so I know whether this thing is in for good or not, because that'll really throw a big speed bump in things if I need to pull that back out and figure out how to get the transmission to bolt in properly. I didn't actually do a ton of clearancing in the tunnel to get the engine to bolt in. From everything I saw online and people I talked to, they were like, yeah, you're gonna need to clearance that thing like crazy. But it really wasn't that bad. But granted, I don't have the trans fully bolted in yet. But just looking at it, there looks to be enough room that I'm not gonna have a big issue here. Alright, so I've got marked out what I'm gonna start out cutting first, and then I'll cut more if I have to. I don't wanna cut too much, so we'll take this one step at a time and see how much we really need to cut. All I have to cut this is an angle grinder. I don't know if that's the best tool of choice to do this, but that's all I got. I don't think a Dremel is going to do it because it's fairly thick right here. So we're going to use a grinder. Hopefully I don't make too big of a mess here. But yeah, I have the center console piece that'll go over top to hide this if it's a disaster. So we're just going to go ahead, start cutting, and hopefully the trans can be bolted in. Alright guys, so new day now. I ended up taking a break from this thing after I cut the tunnel in that last clip that you guys saw. I cut the tunnel and the shifter comes through all the way now, but the trans is still about an inch away from bolting in. So unfortunately, the engine and the trans are gonna have to come back out again, or at least most of the way out, so that I can clearance out the tunnel a little bit more, and I'll probably grind down the spine on the top of the trans as well. Putting the engine in like a few days ago or whenever it was, I knew it was basically just going to be a test fit. There was really no chance that that engine and trans were just going to stay in here first tee with no issues. So in the back of my mind, I think I even said it to Chase and Isaac, I knew that engine was coming out again. And luckily we didn't do any piping or wiring or anything like that, so it's literally just hook it up again, get the boys over here some physical help, and we'll get this thing back out again, clearance it, and then hopefully put it back in for the last time. So we're going to take a break from that stuff today and move on to some other stuff I need to get done on this thing. First off, I need to swap out this fuel pump for the Walbro 255 that I got. I already took off this cover for where the fuel setup sits right here, and then now it's basically just pulling these two hoses off and the 6 8 mils around the edge, and then hopefully this cover should come up as well, and then that'll reveal the pump that's in there right now. Something tells me that it is not a stock pump that's in there right now. I actually feel like there might be a Walbro 255 in there already, because this car, I don't know if it was ever actually drifted, but it was set up for drifting, obviously, and but I don't know if it ever actually was. But it looks like some of the fuel stuff has been modified, so we'll see when I pull that out if it's still the stock pump in there, but I don't imagine it is. If someone did some wiring here, then I'm assuming the pump was swapped at some point, so maybe there's a better pump in there, or I'll swap mine in anyway, or return it. I don't really know yet. So we're gonna pull that out and see what's going on in there. Huh. Alright. I thought for sure there was gonna be a bunch of fuel in there, but I guess not. Saves me cleaning up a mess. Well, upon further investigation, I was correct with my suspicion about there being an aftermarket pump in this thing. That right there is a Walbro 206, I believe. I looked up the part number and it came up with a 12 volt pump that's a 206, which is actually more than enough fuel for a stock 1JZ. It looks to be wired okay and in good shape, so honestly I think I'm just going to leave it in. I'll hold on to my pump for now, the 255, just in case I do end up needing it, but honestly, with the bill that this thing has started to rack up, even saving the $180 whatever I paid for the 255 would be nice. So I'm gonna leave this pump in. I think it's gonna be more than enough. Quite a few people actually run stock pumps with stock 1JZs and they don't really have any issues. Once obviously I build the setup a bit and I need more fuel, then a new pump will be needed, and then that 255 will probably come in handy. But I don't know when that'll be yet, so I'm gonna leave that pump in there. And yeah, that saves me a little bit of work, I guess. I knew something was off back here. I saw the wiring was messed with, and I was like, why would you mess with the wiring without changing the pump? So there you have it. Walbro already in there. Probably gonna be returning that guy. While we've got this cover off though, I felt we might as well take a look and see how this 30-year-old fuel tank is doing. And honestly, this thing is mint. It might have been swapped at some point, because this thing, like, there is zero rust to be found anywhere in this thing. That is crazy. Not much fuel in there too, so when I drain it before starting this thing, it won't be too bad. But wow, yeah, that is clean in there, and the seal around the top here looks good as well, so I don't think I'll need to change that. And hopefully my car doesn't smell like fuel all the time, but damn, I'm stoked on how clean that tank is. I did fish out that right there. Underneath those pliers is a piece of a glove that was in there, like a wrenching glove. So I fished that out, and who knows what else is in there, but man, clean tank. Stoked. Okay, so this video is really all over the place, but picking up the camera again, it's a new day from that last clip you guys saw of me going through the fuel system on this thing. The engine is now back in the car. I don't think I filmed taking it out again, but Chase and I had to pull the motor and the trans back out of the car again because the trans would not bolt up. But I now did successfully get it bolted up, so the engine and the trans are in the car for good now, finally. So what that means is I can start on 1, wiring, and 2, all the intercooler piping, the intake, etc. This looks like an absolute disaster right now, but it is surprisingly making sense to me what I need to do and the next steps to get closer to starting this thing for the first time, finally. In regard to the fuel pump stuff, this is a disaster back here, but in regard to that, I am probably going to redo the wiring on that and put a relay in it and just wire it straight to the battery. And I need to relocate the battery to the trunk, so I'll be doing that as well. But right now, I'm just getting started on the intercooler piping. The intercooler pipe is going to come from here and then down there, and then I'll have a little bit of space right here, so I'm hoping that's where the J-pipe delete will sit and I'll be all good. Definitely not the most productive video. I didn't film taking the engine and the trans out again because, I don't know, Chase and I were just trying to get through it and get it done. I ended up having to modify the ISR trans bracket a little bit because for the life of me it would not line up, so I just had to elongate the holes a little bit, and I just ended up having to use a thick washer to make sure that that's all good, but it works. I threw the center console roughly back over the shifter and everything to clean up that massive slot I had to cut in the tunnel to fit the shifter through, but kind of coming together in here slowly but surely. I do have a steering wheel now that I can throw on. And then I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for a seat. I really don't want to put my Vertex seat in this car because I know it's going to get ruined. But do I want to buy another bride seat when I have one? I don't know. So we'll figure that out. I have the bride rail. So that $100 rail right there has kind of locked me in for getting a bride seat for this, which is probably a little silly, but I'm probably going to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I just want to keep getting videos out to you guys, so I'm going to put this video out. Hopefully it's somewhat informative. I got a little bit done. Looked through the fuel, and motor and trans are in. Intercooler stuff has started. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to get videos out so I don't miss things. And yeah, the next video will likely be putting that J-pipe delete in and all of this intercooler piping and figuring out how I'm going to mount that massive CX intercooler on the front of this thing and still fit the bumper over top of it. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like so I know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.